Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Deep-3 here on Friday, January 24th. As most of you can tell, Scott Steen is not available today because I'm taking over on the show. He also won't be available tomorrow, so for the next 2 days, I'll try to provide you with some picks to help everybody make some money. I did the show a couple of times, I'd say probably a month or two ago, but either or, show must go on. Scott's dealing with the aftermath of going to the dentist, and he is not going to be able to do the show for the next 2 days. So, without further ado, we're going to dive right in for some plays on today's card, which I think provides some value. And the first play will be in college basketball between Butler and Marquette. This line has climbed up from -5 to -6, and I still think there's some value at -6. And that play is going to be on Butler, and that one is available at -6 and -110 on DraftKings. Simply put, Butler, even though they're on a 3-game losing streak, they have still played a much tougher schedule than Marquette up to this point. Plus, Marquette this season has played a really easy schedule, and they've struggled on the road. Butler's been really good at home. Butler is 7 and 3 against the spread at home this season, while Marquette is 2 and 3 against the spread on the road. Butler as a whole is 9 and 1 at home straight up, and Marquette on the road is 2 and 3. Really have not been great. Plus, Marquette also has some issues with their scoring depth. Despite scoring 77.8 points per game for Marquette, they only have 2 players scoring in double digits, and Marcus Howard is averaging 28.4 points per game, where the second leading scorer is only averaging 12.5. This team has no scoring depth, and Butler is an elite defensive team that's only giving up 58.1 points per game. If Butler's able to take Howard out of his game even slightly, I think Marquette will struggle a lot. I expect that to occur. The home team has done well in this series in recent years. Butler is 5 and 2 against the spread in the last 7 games following an ATS loss, and the Golden Eagles are 2 and 5 ATS in their last 7 road games. If you compare the rest of the stats, Butler at home, everyone knows that the home team's pretty much been dominating so far this season, and the fact that Marquette, off a 3-game winning streak with a 14-5 record, is still a 6-point underdog, and the fact that money keeps coming in on Butler pretty much tells me all I need to know here. I think Butler should be able to bounce back quite nicely. Marquette doesn't have many weapons besides Howard, and Butler, with their elite defensive core, I think should be able to throw a couple of wrinkles defensively at Howard to cause him to struggle. Now, is it possible that Howard can go off and go for another 35 or so? That's definitely possible, but at the end of the day, I just think Butler is a little bit deeper than Marquette. I think you should see Butler do enough to cover the spread with its elite level defense. I think Marquette is probably going to struggle to break 70 in this game, and I think that Marquette's defense, even though it is pretty solid, is giving up roughly 10 more points per game than Butler is. So I think there is value on Butler. I think they should be able to get the job done. I think Butler should win this game by, I'd say, around 8 points. So for me, the first play will be on Butler -6, and that line is available at DraftKings at -110. Now, the last 2 plays will be on the NBA, and the second play, once again, these plays are in no particular order, but I'm just going from top to bottom. The second play that I like is going to be on the Houston Rockets -5.5, which is available on DraftKings at -107. This line was available at -5 last night, but doing the video right now, that line has climbed to -107 on DraftKings at -5.5. Main reasons here, mostly a Timberwolves fade. The Timberwolves have been terrible this season. They're currently on a 7-game losing streak, and they actually have the worst against the spread record in the NBA at home. So this team has been absolutely abysmal in front of their home fans, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that trend continue against Houston in this one. Houston hasn't played well either, but they are coming in off a solid double-digit win against the Nuggets, and I think they've kind of corrected some mistakes they were making during that brief slump. But these teams have already played twice this season, and the Rockets have won each of the first 2 meetings by at least 20 points. The Rockets have dominated this series in recent years, as Houston is 10 and 4 against the spread in the last 14 meetings. And the Timberwolves, I mentioned before how bad they are at home. Specifically, they are 7, 18, and 1 against the spread in their last 26 home games. Overall, not really a big fan of anything the Timberwolves are throwing at opponents. I know that Towns has been really good statistically, but in terms of impact, they still lose every game that they play, so I don't think that really matters. Wiggins has been okay this season, but overall, he still takes a ton of shots. He's still not the most efficient player in the world, and I'm not really a big fan of him being the number 2 option on any team's given offense. Other than that, though, they did trade their veteran point guard, Jeff Teague, and I'm not really a big fan of who else they have on the roster to replace him, but as a whole, I just know that the Timberwolves can't exactly guard Harden. I think Westbrook will play well. Capella is a little bit of pretty inconsistent, honestly, but he still has the ability to dominate on the boards and to fight off Towns for some rebounds. So I think he should be able to help keep Towns off of the glass. But as a whole, I just think Houston's the better overall team. The Timberwolves are going to be using their lineups projected to look like Napier, Culver, Wiggins, Covington, and Towns against Westbrook, Harden, McLemore, Tucker, and Capella. Houston just has the better overall team, and 5.5 I just think is a bit too low against the team that's on a 7-game losing streak. I think Houston should be able to win this game pretty easily. Could be a blowout again. The first meeting this season was on the road in Minnesota, and Houston still won that game by 20. And then the second game was in Houston, and Houston won that by 30. I just think these teams don't match up well. I think Houston should dominate once again. This line should continue to climb. I think this line will climb to roughly 6 or 6.5 before tip. But at 5.5, I just think that's too low. So the second play will be on the Rockets minus 5.5, which is available on DraftKings at minus 107. And the third play will be on the NBA, another favorite, with the Raptors minus 8, which is available at minus 110 on FanDuel. This line was available at minus 7.5 last night, ended up climbing up to minus 8. Rightfully so. The Knicks are terrible. Raptors, though, have been underratedly just rolling lately. The Raptors have won each of their last 5 games, and the Knicks have lost 4 of their last 5. Main reason why the Raptors have played well is because of the fact that everyone is getting healthy. Van Vliet, Gasol, Powell, and even Siakam are all back in the lineup. They have been for at least over a week, and they've looked really good ever since then. People talk about how Milwaukee is the best team in the Eastern Conference, and I do believe that that's the case. I think you can make an argument Toronto might be the second best team in the Eastern Conference. People want to talk about Philly, and I understand that, but with Embiid and Simmons together, that just hasn't gelled. And other than that, the Boston's looked okay, but they've been pretty hit or miss. And I think the Raptors are just really solid. I know that they lost Leonard, so people aren't talking about them in the same light. But this team is really good, and people just aren't noticing. They've kind of been falling under the radar. In Toronto, they're averaging 7 more points per game than the Knicks, roughly. They're also giving up roughly 7 fewer points per game. The rebounds are pretty much the same, but defensively, Toronto's been significantly better. And the Knicks, even though they only lost to the Lakers by 8 at home in their last game, they still have just played some really bad basketball lately. People were excited about the Knicks when Miller took over because they went on a brief, a 2 or 3 game winning streak, and people in New York thought that, it was a sign of the apocalypse. But this team has fallen back down to earth. They're just not good at basketball. It's very simple, and Toronto is just deeper, more talented, and the better coach team. I think that will pay dividends. Now, is 8 a little bit high for a spread, potentially? But at the end of the day, I think the Raptors should win this game by double digits. I think the Knicks will look decent for a half, but I think the Raptors will do enough offensively to blow this game open in the second half. I don't think the Knicks will have an answer for Siakam, who's a matchup nightmare. Van Vliet has been really solid with his three-pointer over the last couple of weeks. Pretty much the entire season ever since he came back from his injury. But he's been great. Anunoby's been really good. Lowry's been really good. Overall, I'm just not impressed with the Knicks lineup, especially considering the fact that R.J. Barrett is currently inactive and he will not be playing in this game. Plus, Dennis Smith Jr. played 1 game against the Lakers. He is not expected to play in this game. Do I think it really matters? No. But Barrett being out is actually a decent deal with Barrett. I'm not a big fan of his, but he's still averaging 14.1 points per game. Still a solid weapon for a reeling Knicks team that's 12-33. So I think that him being out will lead to some issues. Payton's not a great shooter. Bullock has been he's just been struggling since he joined the Knicks. Marcus Morris is pretty good. Randall's pretty good, and Gibson isn't that great offensively. I just think that Toronto should be able to limit New York to less than 100 points. I think you should see Toronto win this game. So the 3 plays, once again, for the Deep-3 will be Butler minus 6, which is available at minus 110 on DraftKings. The Rockets minus 5.5, which is available at minus 107 on DraftKings. And the Raptors minus 8, which is available on FanDuel at minus 110. Other than that, though, that's going to be this installment of the Deep-3 here on Friday, January 24th. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.